So we're here today at Miller's Gun and Supply, and I'm getting my new Prime Form set up. This one is the 34-incher. Dwayne here, he's switching out the string. We're going to put on an orange-colored string for me, just to kind of match my setup up a little bit. There's some real pros to use in an archery shop. You know, I'm not a great bow tech. It's just not something I've ever really gotten into. So Miller's has been my go-to for the last 15 years. They've always done a great job, and I really trust them. So Dwayne's just kind of going to go over today kind of what we're doing and why he does some of the things he does as far as how he sets bows up.
Yes, sir. It's going to look sweet. But yeah, pros obviously have changed a new string. Custom strings are definitely not going to stretch like a factory string. There's a lot of okay factory strings out there. Custom strings are definitely something we recommend here. Number one thing that stands out, factory strings will always throw an arrow to the left, or for what I'm aware of, most of them will. Obviously the biggest upside to a custom string is less stretch, less peep rotation. There's definitely some good factory strings that for the first year or so, they will hold up pretty good. Strings, you know, they're not going to stretch a whole lot. Usually after that 1 year mark, you'll see that factory string will separate itself from a custom string pretty good. Custom strings just, they pretty much hold up till, some of them up to 3-4 years, depending on how much you shoot. Number one, not peep rotating. Secondly is obviously not stretching, so you don't get serving separation. That, and you can get whatever color you want to bling out your bow. And bam, strings changed.
So we're going to set this one up with the Hamskea. I've been using the Hamskea the last few years now, and very reliable, very tough rest. It's a limb-driven rest. One of the strong points is a Hamskea's limb-driven rest will stay up 80% longer, you know, to just guide that arrow just a little bit longer. I'll let Dwayne give you a few points that he thinks great about Hamskea also, why they have kind of pushed me that direction, and I've really started to like the rest myself.
Absolutely. So obviously here at Miller's, everybody here shoots a Hamskea. We've had tremendous luck with them. I mean, virtually zero coming back. A lot of people are concerned about the long cord that's running from the rest down to the limb. And usually our, I guess, kind of, the cord's always tight. If you run Q80 or ripcord or whatever, that cord's going to have a lot of slack in it. So we feel even though the cord, you know, it's longer, it's always tight, so it's not getting snagged up constantly. Another big plus for us is the Hamskea will get pulled out of the way. Cable driven will fall out of the way with a spring. So if there's any friction, dirt gets in there, that Q80, you know, you're relying on a spring to pull it down versus an actual cord. So theoretically, unless this cord breaks, this rest is always dropping.
All right, so the sight we're going to put on this bow is the new dialed Pruf. This thing is really sweet. Look how clean that is. So my buddy Scott Backen, he is one of the owners of this company too, and I've known Scott a long time. So kind of glad to support them and help them get, you know, this business rolling. This is their newest sight, and they've made a lot of adjustments from the last year or two, right?
Definitely agree with that.
And pretty well spot on. So
cool part about this sight as well is if you look at it from the side, notice how their slide rail is actually at an angle. So as you dial this sight down, the scope actually gets closer to the bow. And for people out there that know, the closer your sight is to the bow, the more yardage you get. So this is maximizing how far you can shoot. Obviously, I'm guessing if you were to talk to Ben, he probably wants some 25 to 30 yards and in. So, but it's nice for practice.
Yeah, but for a lot of guys that are shooting, you know, long distances or shooting tack events or things like that, you know, if you know how to sight these in and you know, bottom it out, sighting it in, and to where you can get the most out of your system, like Dewey was saying, with that angled, you're going to get even more. So pretty simple. This one actually happens to be a 2-pin. You know, very seldom do I use the second pin, but once in a while you get into a situation where maybe your deer is farther than you think, like maybe he's at all of a sudden he's running a doe or does something stupid and he's out to 40 quick. And so you don't want to compensate so much, or you don't have time to twist, you know, super fast. You can use that second pin and be right on.
All right, so I'm guessing most guys know what first, second, third axis leveling is. If you don't, I'll walk you through how I do it here. So on a slider sight, your first axis is very important, because as you slide that slider up and down, if first axis is off, you're going to hit left or right. And first axis is the difference between your riser or your string level and that bar. So when I slide that bar down, if it's cocked to one side and sliding left, your pin's naturally going to be to the left and you're going to hit to the right. So I got to make sure this bar matches the string. And it's off just a touch. Alright, so now you can see I have that first axis, that rail right there, set perfect in relation with the string. But if you come to the back here, you can see now my second axis is off, which is the pitch of this scope. You can see that bubble sitting to the left and this one sitting dead in the middle. So now I'm actually going to go to the front here. I'm going to change the pitch of that scope. Alright, now you can see that level, and that level all match up. So now you know everything's square. The only thing we need to do is we'll have to get Ben to shoot it. Third axis is actually adjustment this way. So that depends on how Ben's hand fits in the bow, all that stuff, on how that bow is going to torque when he's at full draw. Usually we'll set this center just level according to the bow with no torque on it, and then Ben will have to shoot it and see if that's on, or if we'll have to make a slight adjustment there. So I believe the sight's ready to go.
Looks clean. I don't know if you guys have noticed, but there's been a lot of talk about the new form, you know, because of their idea of using, you know, these carbon dowel rods basically to lighten up the bow, and everybody's been worried about, some people don't like the look, some people are just worried about change, but in all reality, Prime does not do anything without it being tested to the fullest extent, and their engineering there is just incredible. This bow doesn't scare me a bit, and you know, there's other things coming, so just hold your horses, but Prime is always innovating and doing a lot, so you can't believe how light this bow is, and you know, just the way it feels.
Getting ready to put a D-loop on it. There's a couple ways you can do it. You can eyeball it and get it close. You can also use a T-square, like this one here. And you'll just clip it on the string and just lightly set it right down in the valley, roughly where the bottom of your arrow is going to sit. And I'll take a silver Sharpie, and I'll usually start maybe just a tiny bit knock high, maybe a 16th or something like that, and I'll make a mark right there. And I'll pop this off. Take a piece of serving, and I'm just going to tie a simple knot right on that silver Sharpie line. And that is where the bottom of my knot's going to be. I'll just snug it down. I'll go to the back side, make another knot. Snug that up, come to the front, and I'll usually do this, I kind of go by looks. I don't have a certain number. Usually it's between 4 and 5. I'll just go back and forth.
How do you know where to start with the rest height adjustment?
Rest, you want it running, usually I'll start roughly right through bottom of the arrow through the center, or the center of the arrow running through the center of that burger buttonhole. Pretty much all these Hamskeas come from the factory just like that. Depending on how the customer wants it, occasionally we'll have a guy that likes the knock set higher, according to how the bow holds to him. He has a preference, and then we'll usually set it higher, but for the most part, we'll run it right through the center of that hole.
They do make a couple that they're different sizes.
Tilt this down. When I go to burn these, always burn from the top, so you don't burn your serving. Just melt it down.
You'd be the first.
Alright, I'm gonna grab Ben Zero. So this is the knock that Ben's gonna be shooting. It is a new Easton knock. I'll stick that on the string. And I'll tie a knot right above it. Just snug it down, don't wrench on it. And I want just a little bit of wiggle room, because as you draw back, that V is going to close down and that knock is going to pinch, so that's about perfect. Maybe a 1/16, maybe just over a 1/16 of an inch slop. I'll pop that off, and I'll do the same thing and work my way away from the knock with these knots.
In my opinion, competition is good.
Oh, absolutely.
Never heard of that release. Do they make a double caliper like this?
You can hook up your release without looking at it.
This must be a...
The guy shooting the bow, or
No, just...
Your actual releases are the color of your bow.
Where are they from?
Push the button.
Just like that. Just a little bit of slop in it. That arrow pops off nicely. All right, we got everything bolted on. We're gonna check check the timing on it now.
Yeah,
Way,
no, I-
you know, to
but that's how I am.
I
'Cause
try to
like,
take
my
that-
saying has always been this, dude. Freaking Indians used to kill buffaloes with sticks with rocks sharpened inside to the end of them.
yeah.
Like, you can really get too far out of it, you know, in my opinion.
I just try to take those scenarios away. Like,
I mean, I can
That
remember walking
timing
around
is
with
perfect.
bows with grips.
What are you
this
looking
big.
for in the time?
So
Big,
I'm
fat
looking
wooden
where
grips,
when that stopped
little tiny
and that
wheels.
stopped. You want those
You know,
hitting these cables at the exact same time. So if
Yeah.
you look at that closely, that one just touching now, and if you look at this one,
And you see the deer
also
go.
touching just barely. So timing's perfect on it.
Here it comes. Where's Twangy at? My
All right,
first
we'll
bow,
throw a peep in it.
my first real compound, like, so a guy had given me an old bear whitetail 2 hunter. You ever seen those, the bear whitetails? They had all the wheels. So I had one of those
3/16.
for a while.
Ben's just
But then,
going with a standard radical peep, 3/16 in size.
Farms, you know how it's called, boondocks. And I got a Pro line Condor mag.
You always put a string splitter in so you know exactly where the center is.
But they Pro line don't make bows anymore. But do you remember that by chance? Pro line bows.
We'll just scoot that up roughly to the right height.
It was so unbelievable at the time. I hacked
Grab a tape and I'm going to measure because I know roughly where this should be at. That ought to be really close.
And
this
you're
is-
measuring from the D loop.
Yep, so I'll measure from here. Generally people are anywhere from 5 1/4 to 6 1/4. I usually start right around the middle and then I'm just twisting that so that D loop is standing up nice and straight. And then we'll go in the back and we'll adjust that perfectly once Ben has it at full draw. All right. Your turn, buddy.